Let me be the first to hope that you're having an awesome week so far, unless you got Nike stock. Just blew it, as they say. Now, nothing happened. Now, we'll get into the stock reports and all this other stuff and figure out why Ted Cruz is taking a victory lap. Nothing big happened. Like, they didn't get caught stealing money from shareholders. There was no big scandal. They didn't finally catch him for using Chinese cheap slave labor. None of that. It's just a remarkable, slow, steady decline of one of an American icon companies that we had out there and always was considered like a safe, steady stock, right? Let me just give you the long and short of it, exactly what happened here, why people are talking about Nike, the famous brand, you know, the swoosh, just do it. They're at a 12-year market low, now a steady decline, $200 billion loss in market value. But that's the story. This wasn't one big thing. It wasn't one big event. It's been a slow, steady decline since 2014. Why? Well, you probably can pick the reasons why. Go woke, go broke, right? But this is remarkable because the big takeaway on this should be that people who have had enough of that kind of marketing, when a company goes completely in the opposite direction of what their core customer base wants, it has an effect. And boy, there are some people taking a victory lap today. Kind of, sort of, including me. But anyway, let's figure out why. What are the top reasons why this classic, iconic American company is going down the tubes? Let's figure it out together. You can find a Wicked Radio on the live stream, replay on the podcast, on X and YouTube and Facebook. Audio version of the pod, the complete show, always uploaded shortly after the live stream. Let's get right to it. First of all, CNBC. Oh, the market recap. How is it doing? Now, this is bad for everybody. If you looked at your 401k, you might have gone, oh, that's ugly. But one particular company led the downfall yesterday, and CNBC calls them out by name.
Day in the red for the major averages. The Dow fell 272 points, 0.5%, led lower by shares of Nike.
Nobody's rooting for that. Nobody wants to see the stock market fall, but it's interesting when they call out a particular company that did a worse job than anybody else in the stock market when they look at the Dow, led by Nike. That's not good. What we're talking about here, like I said, a 12-year low, $200 billion market loss. They've lost 80% of their value since 2021. What happened around 2021? Oh, yeah. All of that woke stuff happened. Now, we could go in forever about Colin Kaepernick and the thing. Remember, just to review, because I can't stand bringing him up again and even talking about him again, former NFL player who sued the league, won, by the way, I think it was a $30 million lawsuit, then kept on clamoring and clamoring. Just an absolute, complete, total grifter. One of Nike's main guys. He was one of their endorsers, right? But he was the one wearing the, cops are pig socks, and he led the kneeling thing, and he did something else. He led, mostly internal, didn't make a public statement about it, but former Nike officials came out and said he was the one that got them to cancel their Betsy Ross flag sneaker, the patriotic all-American sneaker they were going to release for a July 4th celebration. Who got him to cancel that? Who caved? Yeah. Colin Kaepernick. But that wasn't the only thing. And we'll get into Ted Cruz's victory lap here in just a second. It was right about that time. This is one of their viral commercials. This is where they went. This is a great example of this. I don't know if you remember seeing this, because if you watch football or basketball, this commercial aired, it seemed like every single timeout or commercial break. It was the girl who's walking into high school, and it is a Nike ad, and she refuses to do her paper or her presentation on dynasties, traditional dynasties. Romans, Greeks, whatever. Nope. She refuses, she says, and she's going to talk about the kind of dynasties she wants to talk about. Do you remember this commercial? It was one of their biggest from that era.
I refuse to talk about the ancient history and drama. That's just the patriarchy. Instead, I'm going to talk about a dynasty that I actually look up to. An all-women dynasty. Women of color. Gay women. Women who fight for social justice. Women with a jump shot.
Nothing wrong with all that stuff, but it's the refuse. That's the patriarchy. They started in with the men are bad kind of thing. More on that customer base for a second that they thought they had, and it turns out they didn't. And I think the most relevant part of this whole story was this wasn't a big crash. This wasn't some revelation kind of thing. This is a slow, steady decline where their customer base, their core, said enough. Because do you remember what Nike was? Do you remember the Air Jordans, Michael Jordan, right? Bo Jackson, Just Do It. And they're female athletes, too. The female soccer players, I think Brandy Chastain, it was great. Just do it. It was about getting it done. No excuses. And then it turned into the ideology and the agenda and everything they pushed. That's why people like Ted Cruz are taking a victory lap. Why is Ted Cruz talking about Nike? Well, before that even market recap came out yesterday, the senator from Texas came out and he said in an X post, which is getting a lot of attention, by the way. I like when people who are elected representatives kind of spearhead the news because it gets the attention and everybody's aware of it. Ted says, for my whole life, I wore nearly 100% Nike for athletic wear. Kaepernick pisses me off, but when they canceled the Betsy Ross shoe, and we were just talking about that, it showed that their marketing plan was America hate. It's a strong statement from old Ted. I went out and bought brand new shoes, shorts, and T-shirts. Turns out I wasn't the only one. Now, you may not like Ted Cruz. I understand that. But like it or not, he is a national figure with a giant voice on social media and on traditional media. When he says something like this, he's representing a lot of people who feel the exact same way. Even if you disagree with him on most things, and maybe that's you, do you disagree with him on that one? Now you look at the Nike stock in a 12-year free fall, steady decline, no big event. He's not the only one. And the big takeaway is your voice does matter. But maybe it wasn't something external. Let's go to reason number 2. Maybe it was their own internal marketing plan and their own people who took over their company, like this lady. Now listen to what she says. She was their DEI manager. Executive, I guess you could say. This is just a PSA video where she's talking to some high school kids. We'll get to her in a second. Listen to what she says.
I am currently the Global Inclusion Program Manager for our diversity engagement team. And I literally am hired to make sure people have a sense of belonging here. It's so fun because in this space, in this work, it's all about just behavior change.
Behavior change. That same lady, by the way, was convicted and sent to 5 years in prison for stealing from the company. But, it's behavior change. So maybe that's indicative of what actually happened to Nike. Maybe they were taken over by people like her. It's all about behavior change. I am here. My job is to make sure everybody feels included. Well, it's not about you. It's about your customer base, which you abandoned. Maybe that's another reason. Maybe that's number 2 why Nike has crashed. I think the biggest reason of all, though, is this. They planned on this entire thing. Now, why would they even do this, right? They overestimated what their core value, what their core base was. I remember as a kid being Nike was the coolest freaking thing in the world to get a Nike sneaker. It was amazing. It was awesome. Quality stuff. And actually, believe it or not, I still think they make good stuff. But all of a sudden, it became a punchline where normal people like you said, I don't really want to, I don't want to deal with that thing. There are other brands out there. While their market share slipped, there were other brands that popped up that were just as good and not as expensive as Nike's. Hundreds of dollars for Air Jordans and all that stuff. But they counted on all of these girls like in the commercial. I'm not going to support the patriarchy. I'm not going to talk about white dynasties. I'm not going to do all this. They counted on that being their new customer base. I don't care who you are as a company. That will never work long-term in this country. It won't. It'll get a lot of noise, but that's never going to work. Case in point, this was a video that went viral in late 2023. This is a pro-Palestine, anti-Israel girl talking about boycotting all kinds of companies. Will you get to the end what she says? She includes Nike in this. She's screaming in front of the flag, all the other stuff. This was the person they counted on as their customer base, and it still didn't work.
Coca-Cola, Pizza Hut, Burger King, Pepsi, Domino's, Papa John's, Nike, CeraVe.
Now she's at a Free Palestine rally, calling on the boycott of all those companies for, I guess because they supported Israel or something, whatever the hell the reason was. But Nike was specifically included in there in her call for a boycott along with those other companies. The video went viral because the end of it, they focused in on what she's wearing. She's wearing Nike shoes. It's just hypocrisy, cluelessness, of course. But that's who this company counted on. That's, I think, the main reason. That's the customer base this company counted on to actually support their company. That's never, ever going to work when you go against traditional, normal values and you completely go away from your customer base. That's why people like Ted Cruz and others are taking a victory lap. But there's other reasons why. Maybe it's this. We talked about Kaepernick. We know that. Included in this, 1 and 2, he helped cancel the Betsy Ross sneaker. That pissed a lot of people off. Also partnered with, I don't know if you forgot about this, Dylan Mulvaney. Now listen. Dylan Mulvaney was the trans person that kind of sunk with the Bud Light commercials and all that other stuff. After the Bud Light disaster started to happen, Nike went ahead and said, nope, sounds good to us. She's available. Still went ahead and made Dylan Mulvaney, a trans person, the face of its workout gear. They tried to become Lululemon with that person. What paid Dylan Mulvaney $150,000 per Instagram post. Not talking, thank God, but working out in Nike gear. Do you think that worked? No, it did not. Also set goals, and this kind of goes to the DEI manager that wound up going to jail. Set goals including 35% U.S. racial and ethnic minority representation in their corporate workforce, 30% at director level and above. Okay, I'll let you decide. Maybe that was a main reason. Prioritized, of course, as we all know, LGBTQ plus initiatives, broader cultural signaling, and terminated Kyrie Irving over the vaccine, which was another massive reason. Lost his endorsement. You'll hire Dylan Mulvaney and Colin Kaepernick, but here's Kyrie Irving, a basketball player who simply made a medical choice for his own body and said, I don't want to take the vaccine. Not only did he lose money from New York because he was playing with the Knicks at the time, Nike just said, oh, you're going against the grain and we're gonna get rid of you. So maybe that's another huge reason why the Nike stock is failing so badly. So where do they go right now? Because here's a company that could have gone in a different direction, that could have actually realized their mistakes. 12 years since 2014 when this crap started. 12 years, and now they've lost $200 billion of market share. Did they learn? I'm betting no. But maybe they go to their current endorsers and athletes. LeBron James, you can't really call him woke. Maybe you don't like him, but you can't. Will they listen to him? This is him at a recent stock market meeting talking about Nike and where they need to go. He says it. He's in the company. Will they listen to him? I think this company's gone so far down the hill they can't even hear one of their own endorsers.
You got to get back into the roots. You got to get back to being out in the inner city, having runners. How it was when I was coming up, you had people that was literally out in the communities talking to these younger generations, asking them what they like, what they don't.
No, that's not done these way. LeBron, it's not. Here's the thing, and here's the main reason. Here's number one reason of all. Here's a company that said, we're going to tell you what you like. We're going to tell you what to think. And we're going to tell you what's right and what's wrong. And we're going to virtue signal the whole way. How'd it work out? 80% market loss since 2021. Their 12-year low, $200 billion in market share lost. Just do it? No. You just blew it is what you did. Is it recoverable? I honestly don't know, because I don't think they're even that company must be, just by going by their corporate makeup and the DEI executive that was actually convicted of stealing money from the company and their daily goal. I don't know how you cleanse a company like that. Now you look at Anheuser-Busch, which is actually owned by InBev, a foreign company. Believe it or not, even through the Bud Light thing, they were able to turn things around quite a bit. We know they got hammered for the Dylan Mulvaney thing. We know for sure. But things have turned around over the past year and a half for them. They're not a punchline anymore. They hired Peyton Manning and Shane Gillis to do their Super Bowl commercials. Bud Light's not as bad. In this entire time, have you seen Nike make any kind of a turnaround culturally? Have they gone back to just do it and going back to, like LeBron said there, going into the market, talking to kids, what they want, talking to their customer base, athletes, weekend warriors like me? Have they gone to them to try to reach out? I haven't seen it. I don't think they're recoverable. I don't think Nike is going to come back. If they did, it would be amazing, but they got a whole lot of work to do. So there's a company that is the true epitome, even more so than the Bud Light deal with Anheuser-Busch, even more so than Bud Light. There's a company that epitomizes go woke, go broke, because they never learned, and they've had over a decade to do it. So sorry if you have Nike stock. Who could blame you, too? It was always one of those reliable stocks that has always done great in the country. Not anymore. So here's the takeaway. If you are any kind of investor or just a citizen, look at these companies that are willing to learn. Everybody makes a mistake. I understand that. And I think it would be understandable for any company in 2021 with all that crap going on to actually kind of reach out to the market, get a little bit woke to try to reach out to test the waters. They never stopped. All Nike's done is dig deeper a hole for themselves and gone. They've tripled down on going woke. How's it working out for them? Will they listen to their own athletes like LeBron? Nope. I bet no. So who knows? Sorry if you're stuck with that stock, but the bigger takeaway is this. If you never, every once in a while, because it takes a long time for these stories to happen, and we get so much information these days, and we're so ADD addicted with, one headline is in, the other one's out. Whenever you start to think that you don't make an impact, forget about politics. Vote with your dollars. If you don't like something that's going on culturally, taking your dollars away, and obviously a lot of people have, like Ted Cruz said with Nike, taking your dollars away matters. It matters big. That's what makes an actual difference if the company's able to learn from it. Because even if Nike is too stupid to learn from this, other companies are looking at this, believe me. So your dollars do matter. Who knows? Go woke. Unbelievable. Just blew it. All right, thanks for finding me on Wicked Radio live stream and the replay. We'll catch up with you tomorrow on whatever's in the news. We'll be talking about it, most likely making fun of it. But more importantly, replay of the live stream on X and YouTube and Facebook, live every single day, 8 a.m.-ish Eastern time. And more importantly, the audio podcast episode, always uploaded shortly after the live stream. Make it a wicked awesome Thursday, getting closer to the weekend. Yeah, just do it.